Talofa Samoana, it's Lillian here, and I'm back with a new project. So I've been working on my drawing skills, and let me tell you, I have so much respect for people who draw or make art every day because it is not easy. But this channel, Anava Samoana, is about us doing what we can to preserve our Samoan language and culture, and we all know that art is a powerful way to share knowledge. So in this series of videos, I've challenged myself to work on my artistic skills by sketching or painting 100 Samoan faces. I'll do this one face per video, and while I'm sketching or painting, let's talk story. In each video, I'll share some of the fascinating things I've been learning about our Samoan history, our language, or just interesting facts about our islands and our culture. By the end of this project, Pea Aulia, I hope to have a portfolio of 100 Samoan faces that were breathed onto paper or canvas through 100 Samoan stories. If this sounds like something you need in your life, please subscribe to follow along, and let's get started with the first of our 100 Samoan faces. I'll tell you more about this drawing a little bit later. In the meantime, I thought we could talk about how beautiful the Samoan language is. One of the most popular posts on the Anava Samoana website is a list of pretty sounding Samoan names for girls. But Samoan names can come from any good word or phrase, and sometimes not very nice words too. That's a topic for another video. The Samoan language is so poetic that our words paint pictures, and many of them hold layers of meaning, so that when you gift a child, or a project or a business, a Samoan word for a name, you're often blessing them with powerful imagery on which their life can be built. Let me tell you about 5 of my favorite Samoan words that I think would make really good names too. Let's start with Anava. Anava is the name of an ancient Samoan weapon that looked similar to a nifo'oti, or our war clubs with the jagged teeth along one edge, except Anava were more decorated, more ornate, because they weren't really used in battle. Instead, they were wielded in ceremonial victory marches by the conquerors. They're kind of like those jewel-encrusted scepters that the European monarchy would carry around. Many Anava have been passed down through generations as cherished family heirlooms that remind us of the warrior culture that our ancestors came from. The thing is, I've heard that the Anava held by some families are still covered in the ancient remains of their ancestors' victims. So I guess not all Anava were only ceremonial. The reason I like the word Anava so much is because of how it's used metaphorically, or as a figure of speech. The phrase Anava literally refers to a weapon of war, but here's how we use it. Let's say you're preparing for a debate or you're going to court to fight your case. Your strongest arguments or the claims that you feel could win the battle, this is your Anava. It's the agenda that you're taking in with you to a confrontation. It's the heart of your contention. It really is your weapon of war. You can probably see why I included Anava in the name of my brand. To me, Anava Samoana is about the unique weapons that we have as Samoan people. In many ways, the knowledge and the understanding of our culture, our history, and our language, they really protect our identity, and they can help us to feel safe in a world that has so many confusing messages. So yes, Anava is definitely a powerful word and one of my favorites. Speaking of powerful, mamana is the next word on my list, and it literally means powerful. It comes from the word mana, which is a word that you'll find amongst several languages in Oceania. Mana means power, but not just any kind of power. It refers to a spiritual energy, a life force. It's a sacred power that exists in all things. Mana can also refer to a sense of authority or of influence and prestige. In Samoan, the adjective mamana, or powerful, we don't use it lightly either. We don't use it to describe just anything. In fact, it's most often used to talk about God, as in the sentence, E mamana upu alea tua. God's words are powerful. Like so many beautiful words, the next one on my list comes from nature. Vaitoa is Samoan for lake. It's a simple word with a simple meaning, but I love it because of how its imagery is expressed in the Samoan language. Vai means water, and to'a refers to something that is motionless or still, so Samoans refer to lakes as still water. Because of how it's broken down in Samoan, I would give the name Vaitoa to someone or something that I want to be associated with feelings of peace and security. Vaitoa as a name gives us a sense of reliability, of strength, and even a bit of depth and mystery. I've got two more of my favorite beautiful Samoan words to share with you, but first, if you're enjoying our little sketch and chat session, I'd be so grateful if you could hit that thumbs up button. That will help this video find more people like us who just like to talk about Samoan things. Fa'afetaitele lava. Okay, so this next word is a big one. Let me try my best to summarize it so this video doesn't go on for hours. The word is Tali ilangi, which is actually a phrase. When you break it down, it's made up of tali, which means to receive, as in receiving a gift. I is in, and langi is heaven, like where God lives. So here's one way the phrase Tali ilangi is used. Sometimes when matai or chiefs or family members are having a disagreement about something, they might debate back and forth for a while, and then when everyone's tired and they still haven't agreed on anything, someone might say, "Yep, tato ya fatpea, ai tali ilangi se unga." Which is like saying, you know what, let's just leave things like this for now, and let's just trust that heaven will help us find a solution. Another way I've heard this phrase used is found in the very popular song Samoa Matalasi, where the entire chorus is a plea to Samoa to keep God as our foundation. The song includes a line that says, Le ao o lo malo tali ilangi, which is saying that the ruler of your kingdom is in heaven. And one way to interpret that saying is, whatever happens to us in this life, it's all okay because our kingdom is not here. Our kingdom is in heaven with God. So we just need to be faithful and patient because in God's time, all things will be made right. Now, for me, the most stunning way that the phrase Tali Ilangi was used is in the retelling of a devastating event in Samoan history. This event happened back when New Zealand, which was under the authority of Great Britain at the time, governed Samoa. But then our people decided, nah, we don't need you to be the boss of us. And we raised a resistance, just like we did against the Germans a decade or two earlier. This resistance movement was called Limau o Samoa, with the motto Samoa mo Samoa. And it was all about protesting New Zealand's occupation of our country, but we did it with dignity, in a powerfully peaceful sort of way. But then, one fateful Saturday in 1929, a prominent leader of Limau, Tupua Tamasese Lealofi III, was shot by New Zealand police during what was up until then a peaceful march. But check this out. Before he died from his wounds, Tupua urged his fellow Samoans to not retaliate, to keep the peace. His words have been immortalized in the lyrics of another beautiful Samoan song, Vile mu ia to'a le tai, tali ilangi so ta ai, faitalia peretania. So what he was saying is Filemu, peace. May the tide be calm. Our score will be settled in heaven. Never mind Britain. See that? Instead of seeking vengeance and possibly starting a war, Tupua wanted us to be faithful and patient because Tali ilangi so ta ai. Heaven will take care of us. God will make things right. It took about 30 years, but his words eventually did come true. In 1962, Samoa became the first Pacific Island country to achieve independence. All right, finally, the last of my favorite Samoan words I want to talk about is tausala. Now, tausala is pretty commonly used these days to refer to a young woman who's not just physically beautiful, but one who also embodies some very Samoan values. She is loving and good-natured. She's humble and works hard. She's talented and wise. All of that already makes tausala a great word, but if you know me, I like to dig for even more meaning, and tausala does not disappoint. You can break the word down into tau, which means the cost of something, and sala, which is a sin or a crime. So tausala literally means the payment for a crime, and in fact the word tausala is used especially in scripture and in legal texts to mean punishment. But what does punishment have to do with the beautiful woman? Well, according to Samoan legend, the great god Tangaloalangi once sacrificed his beautiful, innocent daughter as a payment for something wrong that his family had committed, and this sacrifice served to end a war. As Tangaloalangi was giving up his daughter, he referred to her as his family's Tau Ole Sala, thus originating the word Tausala. Now, I don't know all the details of this story. I'm still learning, and I'll definitely talk more about Samoan myths and legends in upcoming videos. But ain't that just typical? Let the woman take the fall to fix all the family problems. Just kidding. Here's a side note. Although we usually think of Tausala as describing a woman, Samoan men who have the same values of love and humility, especially when they're serving their matai, their chiefs, and their families as well, these men can also be described as Tausala. I learned that in this amazing book by a highly respected expert in Samoan language and culture. By the way, if you want to learn more about these beautiful Samoan words and others that I love, and if you want to know where I'm getting all of this information, I'll link below to this blog post on the Anava Samoana website, where I've listed all my resources for you to have a look at. Excuse me, been talking too much. Need some water. All right, where was I? Blog post, resources. Oh, yeah, it's in one of those resources that I found my favorite meaning of Tausala. Yes, there's another meaning. According to the 1893 Grammar and Dictionary by LMS missionary George Pratt, Tausala is a woman with a chiefly title. Pratt even calls her a chieftainess. And I love this definition of Tausala for obvious reasons. A woman with a chiefly title is a woman with power, and I'm a woman, and power is good. But I also love this definition because of how it fits in with all the other meanings of Tausala that we've discussed. Tausala, even though we can use the word to describe a man, it still more commonly refers to woman, and a specific kind of woman. Tausala is a woman who carries some of Samoa's most ideal values, values that were illustrated in a legend where a young woman gave the ultimate sacrifice for the sake of her father and to stop a war. And what could be more powerful than a woman who is willing to give up her life for her family? Anyway, all of that is why I believe Tausala is such a beautiful Samoan word and why it makes such a great name, too. Speaking of powerful women and their families, I've been sketching, or trying to sketch, one of my great grandmothers. She died long before I was born, so I only know her from stories and old photos. But I've really enjoyed studying her face to see how she might be reflected in the family that I do know, and to maybe find some of my own features in hers. So far, I think we've got the same eyebrows. This beautiful lady had like 10 children, and they had children, and their children had children. So you can imagine how many of us in my generation can call her great grandma, and how many there are in the next generation. And hey, if you recognize her face, hit me up. We could be family. Thank you so much for hanging out with me as I've just geeked out about some of my favorite Samoan words. I'll be back next video to draw the second of our 100 Samoan faces. And because it's spooky season, how about we talk about some of Samoa's famous superstitions, yeah? And maybe I'll even tell you a real life ghost story or two. That's coming up next time. But if you don't want to leave my channel just yet, please make yourself at home. Relax on the couch, turn on the TV, and how about watch another video like this one where my cousin Mars and her son are brushing up on their Samoan language skills. I'll just... Okay, bye.